Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all of you here in the room, and of course our online community joining us here at the University of Southampton Highfields campus. It's great to have you all in the room with me, and of course the community joining us online. We're delighted you're with us. My name is Helen Bulkley, and we have a couple of hours ahead of us where we're going to be going through the Greenprint framework, how it came about, a bit more about what the project is, how you might like to get involved as we go along. Now, obviously, 2020 is ingrained in all our minds and something none of us are going to forget anytime soon. But I'm sure, like me, whenever you've spoken to anyone about their experiences through COVID and then pandemic, everyone's got a story to tell, and they're all incredibly different. I've been blown away from the individual to the group to the community about how people have had such a different experience with how they view COVID at the time and, of course, now. But one thing that was consistent, and that is what people learned from it. Not necessarily the same learning, but a huge amount of learning came from it. A lot of conversations were happening, and that's basically how Greenprint developed. In autumn 2020, conversations started happening from individuals, and that's when Greenprint arose. And that is how we've become. It's a sense of community, a sense of togetherness from those individual conversations, and I'm really looking forward to everyone hearing more about that today. So what have we got going on the next 2 hours for the event we've got planned for you? So I'm going to introduce shortly some speakers up to the stage, and they're going to be giving a much more detailed introduction to Greenprint, far more detailed than I can ever imagine, and what the initiative means and any aspirations ahead and how you might like to become involved. We're then going to break for coffee. I encourage everyone online to break for coffee as well. We'll have a 20-minute break, and then after we come back for a coffee break, we're going to have a panel of people who are already involved with the initiative. So I definitely encourage anyone to think of any questions as we go along, maybe write them down or just keep them in your head, because we will also be opening up a panel, and I really look forward to hearing any questions that come from the panel. And also for those of you online at home, you're not being forgotten about. We have our PhD facilitators over here, and they are going to be taking your questions. So any questions you have, please just write them in the chat room and we will make sure they get read out. Excuse me. Also, whether you'd like to write notes as you go along or not, it's very important you know that after this event there will be an email going out with much more information and any details should you wish to get in touch. But without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our first speaker. So please do put your hands together for the Vice President of Research and Enterprise at the University of Southampton. Please do welcome Professor Mark Spearing.
Thank you very much, Helen. Speaker perhaps overstates it. My commission was to provide a welcome here to the University of Southampton to all of you here present in the room, and also very much those of you who are online. It is a great pleasure to welcome you here today on a slightly dreary day, counter to what we've been having here at the University of Southampton in our centenary building. University of Southampton is a very proud partner of the Greenprint initiative, along with the New Forest National Park Authority, University of Portsmouth and the Southern Policy Centre, and also working with the PUSH initiative as well. It has been very much a force for good. It's been a great experience, and it very much aligns with what we see as our core mission as a university. About 18 months ago, January 2022, we launched our new university strategy, which builds on a triple helix of joining together and exploiting the synergies of our core missions of research, education, knowledge exchange, and enterprise. But unlike our previous strategies, really emphasizing our commitment to be a university that is strong and relevant and visible to its place and the communities within which it works locally, and also that we are going to walk the walk and up our game in terms of our sustainability, including environmental sustainability, by getting to net zero carbon by 2030, but also by making environmental sustainability and sustainability more broadly a cornerstone of our research and our education and knowledge exchange and enterprise activities. So the Greenprint initiative brings together much of that, and what we're going to be talking about today around skills very much is at the core of what you would expect a university to be doing. The Greenprint initiative has 5 priorities, one of which is around creating a centre for the skills relevant to environment, achieving a green future. And it is, in my view, if you get the people part of it right with the right skills, the other 4 priorities and everything else we're trying to do will then fall into place. So I really commend to you the conversations, the work we're going to be doing today as being absolutely at the heart of achieving what we need to do locally, and I hope it will have a wider national significance in terms of being an exemplar of a way of working across multiple sectors and multiple organisations. So have a really great day. I really look forward to, or a couple of hours, let's say, it's not going to be that long a day, some really great discussions. I very much look forward to seeing new relationships formed as a result of this and concrete activities that follow. So with that, I'll repeat my welcome. Let's have a really great day. And I'm going to hand over to Councillor Sean Woodward, who is also going to say some words of welcome, I believe. Sean, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. And yes, I guess it's welcome number 3 now from me. So I'm Sean Woodward. I chair the Partnership for South Hampshire. I also lead Fareham Borough Council. I've been absolutely delighted to be a part of Greenprint, to get it right from the start. A conversation I can remember many years ago with Alison Barnes, actually, who runs the New Forest National Park, as to how local authorities might work together with nature. Obviously, we have targets. We have targets to meet in terms of housing, in terms of economy, but how can those things blend together with what is the right thing to do in the local area? So it's this really great example of collaboration, bringing people together to support and work towards common shared objectives. So the idea of a region-wide approach to green recovery actually came from a series of seminars which the Southern Policy Centre ran, and that was back in 2020. And since those first conversations, Greenprint has really evolved, and the Partnership for South Hampshire has been delighted to be able to support that. The partnership comprises a dozen local authorities across South Hampshire, plus the New Forest National Park, and other organisations which are associated with it, such as the Environment Agency, the Solent Local Enterprise Partnership, Natural England, and others. So we were approached by the Greenprint team back in 2021 about the idea of a joint approach to recovery, following which we did provide a grant. I know money is always useful to oil the wheels and get these things underway, so we were happy to support with that. But more important, I think, than the funding that we contributed was the fact that the Greenprint has the buy-in of 12 local authorities. And that's really important because we're able to use our influence to help determine the region's priorities and guide action planning, with the member authorities being able to act really as pilots to show what can be achieved. And I'm really pleased to see the number of people here today, both in the room and online, which tells me that the value of the work is really recognised. And it's recognised across the boundaries of local government. Administrative boundaries really don't matter. You know, nature doesn't respect those boundaries. The economy doesn't respect those boundaries. So it's right that we should be able to work together, and also right across the public and the private sectors. So it tells me, what it tells me is that we could only ever achieve Greenprint's aims through collaboration. It also tells me there's a real determination and focus on activity which benefits our local communities. So there's a real appetite across sectors for developing an economy and a community which reflects some of the things I think we learned during the pandemic and how behaviours changed as a result. More personally, I welcome Greenprint's strong emphasis on the value of nature and what it can do for our economy, for people's well-being, and also all of our senses of identity and sense of place. So I'm pleased about the priorities we've agreed, that they are so broad, ranging from a commitment to deliver net zero by working with nature through to improving skills of the population, particularly the green skills, helping to grow new sectors of our economy, and reassuring to see that the framework addresses what really matters to our region, and our blue and green environments are special, unique. We must protect them, enhance them, and where we can, restore them. In fact, there's one project I can mention which isn't even part of Greenprint, but you're probably aware of the issues in the Solent and nitrate problems, and the fact that that curtailed development right across South Hampshire for a number of years. So we worked together as local planning authorities with, of all people, a wildlife trust, Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust, where we were able to raise money through the local enterprise partnership and all the local authorities for the trust to buy land on the Isle of Wight, to rewild, so taking land out of intense agricultural production with masses of fertilisers being poured over it, which then found their way into trashing the Solent. And as a result of the work of local councils like Fareham and the Trust, has resulted in 15,000 new homes that can be developed for the people that need them, and an improvement to water quality in the Solent, and rewilding of areas on the Isle of Wight and wider. So it just proves what can be done, and that development doesn't have to be exclusive and nature is excluded. It's really quite the opposite. And I know the work that we're now doing with biodiversity net gain is also going to be very important in that respect. So the focus of today's sessions is really the need to tackle low level of skills in so many communities, and Greenprint tackles that head on. You'll be exploring solutions to green skills challenges, looking at the ways our region can benefit from new and emerging opportunities. The priorities that the framework has developed reflect what matters to councils and businesses and other partners right across Central South, which is ripe for collaboration. As I said, the emphasis on collaboration really chimes with the message that the PUSH partnership has been promoting for 2 decades now, that we can achieve far more if we work together. And I'm really pleased to see such a diverse lineup as well of speakers and audience, which represents many key organisations across the Central South. So I think today is a great opportunity to share ideas, commit to being part of the green recovery. So I hope that you will really enjoy your participation today. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your partnership. And I look forward to a really great day. And I think I hand over now to the next speaker to hear more about it.
Well, good morning, everyone. I guess I'm the 4th welcomer now of the day. And actually, it really is a pleasure and actually a great privilege, in fact, to be standing here welcoming you. Because I've had the privilege of chairing the Greenprint conversation to this point. And it is the first time we've physically all been together. So lots of legs I've never seen before in the room. And so thank you, Sean, Councillor Woodward, and Mark, Professor Spearing, for your welcomes, for your support of Greenprint to date, and essentially enabling us to come together today in so many ways. And I'm, as I say, so thrilled to see you all here and have so many joining us online at last. So we've heard about the discourse in the dark times of the pandemic that, really kicked this off. I'm going to give you a bit more of an intimate picture of that, which involves a chat bar in a minute. But, this was a time when I think we all realised how health, environment and economy are actually intrinsically linked. I mean, I think we do know that in our region. But it was very much, at the fore. This kind of dawning realisation across media, or even organisations. And that wasn't just in our locality, it was nationally, internationally. You remember those maps of, pollution disappearing and all sorts of strange things, but really awakened our sort of yearning, really, as human beings about a healthy environment. So this conversation was a very hopeful one in a chat bar at quite a sort of difficult time. And, you know, thanks to Southern Policy Centre, I know John and Simon are here. You know, you've provided these forums for us to have good old blethers across leaders, across different sectors about issues of our day. And this was a particularly important one in 2020 around recovery in the Central South. What did that mean? So yeah, this term green recovery and this notion of being able to address health, climate and nature crises together was very much on the table. And I don't mean in terms of a dead cat, I mean as in terms of a sort of hopeful proposition. And as Sean has mentioned, you know, there's a lot of us who really feel strongly that this area has so many of the assets, so many of the business, so much of the knowledge to really bring that kind of, that reality of bringing those things together for our region, you know, to the fore. So was this the moment that we could really take advantage of that? And this is where the chat bar comes in. I'm sure many of you have struck up conversations with people over the last few years who you may not ever have spoken to before. My particular conversation was with Dr. David Harrison, sitting over there. Sorry, Hutchison even. Sorry about that. One of my members is called David Harrison. David from University of Portsmouth. Is that okay to say here? No, I'm joking. And this went along the lines of, what if we created a framework to understand, measure, and coordinate all the efforts of everyone who could be involved in green recovery for our region? Was that okay, David? Good summary? And that proved to be an important moment because there were enough people on that virtual room and in our networks who wanted to really continue that conversation. And to collaborate for change in our area. And so David wrote a paper with input from Simon Eden over there, from the Southern Policy Centre, myself. Charlotte Smith, actually, from Portsmouth City Council, she was the Insights lead, connected us into Gareth Giles from the university here, from Public Policy Team, and connected us to a very important person, Irina Basistyuk, where's Irina? Who has really kind of been a really important person in pulling this all together and the ideas together. As Sean has mentioned already, it was all very well us talking to each other, but we did know that we needed public sector organisations, the councils, the agencies who were, you know, key to all of this, to bring their support to the idea of Greenprint. So thank you, Sean, for helping us unlock the support of those 12 local authorities and other public sector friends and colleagues. That was an incredibly important moment, and we created a steering group from that. I'm not going to list them all, although I think Kieran Roberts, Andrea McCullum, and Lorna Cahoon are in the room. You know, they have actually helped to guide and shape this all along. I'm giving you the roll call first, and then we get back to what we actually did. Because the next group of people are probably the most critical to mention in terms of sitting here today with something in our hands to work on. So there, I think, is a slide of all of these wonderful PhD students who have essentially, through Irina's expert sort of identification of their skills and who they were, and their your postdoctoral training program, I think, at the university. You know, these are 3 outstanding young people who have stepped forward over the lifetime of the project to do some really, really key elements. So Joseph Owen is actually a PhD student in English literature. But he was the ideal candidate to sort of start this off by connecting and selling, if you like, the idea into lots of different organisations and articulating the 5 themes in a digestible way that perhaps some of the scientists, sorry, I used to be one myself, maybe not so good at doing. So, you know, Joseph really played a key role in getting that partnership up and running. We then had Rhiannon Jones, who is at the Oceanography Centre, and very, very expertly bringing communities of practice together, talking about how we could create outcomes and measures. So there's quite a lot behind the 5 themes which we can all pick up and use to actually measure progress. And a lot of that is down to Rhiannon. And then last but not least, and Carolina, she's sitting over there, she is in the room as the person who has really kind of brought this out to organisations, supported pilots, which I'll mention again in a minute, and just helped us bring things like today off the ground. So thank you, Carolina. If you put the next slide up, there's just a little bit of a statement there from Rhiannon Jones about what it meant for her. But, you know, I think these young people are the embodiment, really, of what we're trying to do here today, is to talk about green skills and jobs and what the possibilities are of bringing those people's ideas, our young people, our businesses, our sectors together to really do something different for the future. I think you've already said, Sean, that we're definitely not starting from scratch when we began the Greenprint. There were a lot of economic and environmental initiatives, signs that a lot of us were really pressing for a greener future. So Future South, Green Halo Partnership, Wilder Hampshire with the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trusts, local authority plans with very similar policies around climate and nature, declarations of climate and nature emergencies, Solent LAP doing a natural capital baseline for the region, which is a really forward-thinking thing. And I could go on, very good examples of developments that are actually taking on board these issues and taking account of things like nitrates. All of these things, involving people who want to see a more sustainable and brighter future for our area. I often call this, a vision for a world-class environment and a world-class economy supported by our thriving communities and businesses. One of the big signs of this was when the Greenprint was included in the Freeport bid. So that was something. I'd like to think that it did give us some indication of our intention and commitment to delivering on our green agenda through that. Obviously, it's early days, but it is there is a commitment. And so the 5 priorities, I think there is a slide on them just to remind you. Just they came out of a big sort of analysis of the plans and policies we already had, discussions with many of you in the room and beyond about what were the things that really kind of came to the surface as our USP on green recovery. So I often sort of say, what's your Sesame Street? What is it brought to you by? The trash can was moved a minute ago, so I can't really bring that in. But, this is about us being able to say, in a nutshell, what we're about and what we offer. And I think people have really sort of coalesced around these themes. Of course, today, we are focusing, and I think, Mark, what you said was absolutely right. The final theme is the one that really we can thread through all the others, because to deliver any of these things, we do need to have a focus on skills and the economic package that might come around that. So I think there is an economy in all of the themes that we see here, and an opportunity for us to take our niche and to be at the forefront where we should be. So this is our shared proposition today, and it does give us, as I say, the opportunity to develop a USP for green recovery, and to place ourselves at the forefront of national and international agendas on climate, nature, and the green economy, whilst at the same time delivering for our communities. In fact, when we started this, and I say this with a little bit of trepidation because I'm going to quote some research, and it's not Southampton's or Portsmouth's, but it was a YouGov poll at the very start of our work, which was commissioned by Positive Money. And it said that 82% of the members of the public questioned wanted government to prioritise health and well-being of citizens over economic growth as they shaped recovery. And on top of that, the same survey showed that 61% of respondents wanted improved social and environmental outcomes as a result. So I think that survey still rings true. Certainly my work with the New Forest National Park and our residents and those that visit us says that loud and clear. And many of you with Insights teams will be seeing that from the voices of your own residents. And the other thing I just want to say was I think our Greenprint does reflect as well the national legislative and sort of international discourse that's going on. So everything from the Environment and Agricultural Acts, you can go and look these up later, have been passed since we started this work. Lots of targets that relate to these priorities within the Environment Improvement Plan that was launched in January this year. This principle of public money for public good coming through our agricultural support systems. Duties on local authorities to deliver local nature recovery strategies. They're just really kicking in now. Plans for biodiversity net gain through planning. Treasury expectations around clean growth and support of clean growth. Commitments made at COP27, it's quite a long list, isn't it, on climate change, and then at COP15 in Montreal on biodiversity. So I think it does align with that, but I think we really need to activate to make any of that mean anything. And this is our opportunity today. Before I move on to sort of close, I did want to just come back to that Portsmouth City Council contribution. I'm hoping Christina Downey is in the room. Hello, Christina. Because Portsmouth City Council stepped forward as one of the first organisations to trial the framework in its totality, so all of the measures and the outcomes. So do find Christina, she'll tell you how that's gone. And obviously there's the opportunity for you all to do that with your own organisations, whether public, private or third sector. But I think you found that the focus on action and looking at the shared objectives and measures really helped to unlock a new conversation within the council about what actions could be taken. So I could say a lot more. There's been so many people involved and so many conversations to get to our Sesame Street 5 outcomes. But importantly for me as well, is that this is all set in a place, and in a place which is outstanding for its environment, with the coastline, the countryside. We have 2 national parks, rich maritime heritage, world-class universities, research institutions, businesses, and actually communities that care a great deal of what happens for the future of their places. And so I don't think it's an accident that we have this in front of us, because I think it's this kind of quality and commitment that dictates the potential that we have for the future. So Greenprint is all about reflecting this potential, this distinctive character and identity for our region, and taking action for it. So it's about creating something we could be justifiably proud of in the future, and to put ourselves at the fore of a better future in the things that we do and the decisions that we make. And I think there's a real possibility from this and from our discussions going forward that this offer can really put this area on the map. And so you've all, in your own way, linked into this already, otherwise probably you wouldn't be here. But I think there's an awful lot more to do. And of course, that's why today is so important. It's an important opportunity for us to collaborate and broaden the conversation beyond what we've already achieved. So what is it we're going to have achieved in a few years' time as a result of working together? It's our chance to really think about that today. And to commit to actions that are fitting for such a wonderful part of this country, and really, the world. I mean, somewhere like this, the New Forest is one of the most Instagram national parks in the world, by the way. So, it's not like we don't have the attention, so we've got to really step up to it and do something good. Another thanks, just to say thanks to Lorna Colquhoun, Director of Research Innovation Services, and Diana Gilpin, Director of Enterprise, Knowledge and Exchange from the university, for helping us put today on as well, because without you we wouldn't be able to have this big conversation. So enjoy the conversations today. We've got a great group of panelists, speakers and workshops within which to develop this conversation, to challenge us, inspire us, get us thinking, provoking, asking what if, why not. And I'm looking forward to hearing what comes out of this, and basically going out of the room with a shared agenda for Greenprint action. So enjoy the day.
Thank you so much, Alison Barnes. And you've undersold yourselves. You just said you were going to do a welcome, the three of you. We all feel very welcome, but that was absolutely brilliant. A really great in-depth understanding of how we've got to where we are. I certainly loved hearing about the 5 priorities and how you've got there, and the focus on skills, and of course the huge, vast mixture of organisations involved already. And the key point I recognised was conversations, and we encourage all of you to go and have some now as we have a little break for coffee. And please do at home go and have a break as well. We're going to come back at 11:10. I suggest maybe if you just keep your YouTube channel on loud, so that as soon as you start hearing any noise in here, we'll be coming back for our panel of our inaugural Greenprint Conference today. Thank you very much. Well, a very warm welcome back. I hope you all had a nice short break there as we come back to the second part of our online conference, and we're going to be having a panel which is going to be hosted by Simon Eden, who is the director of the Southern Policy Centre. As I said earlier, at the end of this panel, please do keep writing any questions you might think of down. I'll be coming around the audience with a microphone, and of course for those of you online, please do write any questions throughout the panel. We have facilitators writing down your questions to make sure they get asked. Because you never know what questions can come up when we have a panel of fabulous people up here who Simon is about to introduce for us.
Helen, thank you very much. And to continue the theme for the morning, I'll say welcome as well, which I think makes it number 5. I'll perhaps finesse it to say welcome to the after coffee session. As Helen says, this is a chance to to broaden the discussion, really, I think, about what Greenprint is, to try and tackle any of the questions you might have about it, but to begin that conversation about how it really does bring people together and how it really does stimulate collaborative working across a bunch of agendas which, as Alison said, we've all shared for some time. We just perhaps haven't realised we have the same ambitions sometimes. We have a good panel here. We have a very good panel here indeed. We have one apology from Debbie Tan, who is Chief Exec of the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust. Unfortunately, Debbie is ill and not able to join us. But I'm sure we will get quite enough from our 3 panel members over the next 40 minutes or so. It certainly is a chance for you to think of questions and comments as well, and just to begin to dive deeper into this idea of a Greenprint and working together on a green recovery, which remains just as relevant, I think, today as it did in 2020 when we first started having conversations about that sort of thing. What I will do in a moment is introduce our panel one by one, and each of them have 5 minutes, just really to talk about what the Greenprint means to them, their organisation, and perhaps slightly more widely their sector, the different sector they represent as well, from the perspective of green skills and jobs, but the other priorities as well, of course. And from there, have your questions ready, please. We will go to colleagues online as well, and see where the conversation goes, really, I think, over the next 40 minutes or so. So without further ado, I'm going to begin by introducing on my immediate left Anushka Otley. Anushka is an executive director with a relatively new, in fact not quite yet born, organisation called South Hampshire College Group. Anushka, over to you.
Hello everyone, so my name's Anushka Otley. I am the Designate Executive Director of Business and Civic Partnerships for the new South Hampshire College Group. For those of you that aren't familiar with this, this is a partnership between Fareham College, Eastleigh College and Southampton City College, who are due to merge on the 1st of August. And my role for the new college group will be overseeing our business partnerships, our civic partnerships, our apprenticeships, adult skills provision, work experience and industry exchange, and also our workforce industry exchange side of things as well. So quite a busy role, but it links in well with today's agenda. Do you want me to do the full? Yep. Okay. So. You know, I think in terms of my feelings towards Greenprint, we're, you know, as an organisation, we're incredibly supportive of this. I want to talk about really the skills aspect of Greenprint and how we can respond to that collectively as, you know, across all providers across the region. I think one thing that's certainly coming through from the local skills improvement plan, which has been led through the Hampshire Chamber of Commerce, is the need for a simplified brokerage system for employers. Accessing skills and training is an incredibly complex landscape, and that's something that I think we can all work together a little bit better on in terms of simplifying that for employers and making those training courses easier to access. And that's where the merger also comes in as well, in terms of having a more cohesive approach to our curriculum offering across the region in terms of the green skills and other wider sectors there as well. So some of the things we've been doing on the run up to today. So firstly, the Strategic Development Fund, which is some government funding that providers across the region have been using to work collaboratively on some joint projects, and net zero being one of those, and that's driven a huge engagement with employers, helping us as providers better understand the skills gaps emerging across the region, not just now but for the future, and working collectively to build plans on how to address those skills gaps. And a lot of our challenges being around how do we train that future workforce when one of our biggest challenges is recruiting skilled staff to deliver against those courses in the first instance. I think that's probably a challenge that most colleges and training providers will say they're up against at the moment. And we've had some incredible initiatives come from that joint project. In the form of some workforce industry exchange, whereby our staff have gone out to local employers and gained some upskilling, and we've had employers coming into the college and sharing their experiences with students and staff as well, which has been incredibly valuable. I'll talk a little bit more later about some, I don't want to sort of tread on Tanya's toes. I know Tanya's talking after lunch around some of the work we've done in terms of schools outreach as well, with the climate change challenge. So she's going to talk to you about that a little bit later on. But one of our other key focuses as part of the SDF project has been the schools outreach, and we were fortunate enough to invest some of that funding into Tech Truck. So we've created a Tech Truck, which is a jointly owned vehicle across providers across the region, and it's kitted out with all types of different digital technologies, which basically the initiative is there to try and inspire young people to access careers in engineering, net zero, and so on, and digital. So hugely exciting. So far that Tech Truck has touched down on over 2,000 young people since we launched this in March, and we intend to continue that work as well. So yeah, certainly partnerships with employers, outreach to young people to inspire them to access careers for the future, I think is hugely important. And then the here and now work, I think, for the sector is what we are doing with our current students. So it'd be great to talk about that, and I'm happy to speak on behalf of some of the other colleges across the region. I think we all have, a strong agenda in terms of sustainability, which we embed throughout the study programmes that we deliver from entry level all the way through to, our higher education qualifications that we deliver at the college. We also encourage our students to engage in community projects, such as the litter picking, upcycling, working in partnership with employers to repurpose things like clothing. And we're also sharing our spaces with the local community as well. So we've got an allotment on site, and we're opening that up to local care home residents, which is a fantastic initiative, really enriching and enabling them to access green spaces fairly close to their doorstep as well. Part of my role also oversees our sustainability committee. So that is basically building our strategy towards reaching net zero. And we use the AOC College Green Roadmap, which guides us on our journey with that as well. I think that's everything.
Thank you. That was comprehensive. I'm sure it's not everything. I'm
It's
sure
not
there's plenty more to come,
everything.
but we only gave you 5 minutes. So. Thanks very much, Anushka.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure that young people engagement theme will come up time and time again, not least, I think, probably from other members of our panel. So let's move on to the next person on the table. Satbir Kaur is Councillor Satbir Kaur is the leader of Southampton City Council, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what the Greenprint means to Southampton.
Of course, thank you. Firstly, thank you for inviting me today to this important conference. I do think Greenprint is very important in bringing all the relevant people together. It's really easy for the academics to be talking about in one way and decision makers thinking that this is important but not really understanding how it's meant to be realistic, and actually bringing all people together I think is invaluable. So thank you very much. from a Southampton perspective, we've got huge ambitions to be a greener and more sustainable city, not just because of the social impact, but because of the economic impact as well. And I think the region believes the same thing as well. For Southampton in particular, if we don't do anything and don't act now, parts of Southampton will already be underwater by 2050. So it's absolutely imperative that we do act. Is why as a council we've made a commitment to be a net zero council by 2030 and have an aspiration to be a net zero city by 2035. Like I mentioned, it's not just about the social, although everybody wants kind of a healthier future, but also the colleges kind of touched on it as well, the job opportunities and the skills that it could bring to this region and the investment are incredible. For me, we're in a green revolution. As a region and as a city, we can either be leaders in that space or followers, and I'd much prefer us to continue to be leaders. Southampton, for example, in the 1980s, were the first ever place to have the geothermal energy scheme, which is still going. It was first given to us by Dr. Alan Whitehead, which is still pioneering in this area. We have the first commercial port ever to use shore power, which is absolutely incredible. If anything, we want to improve that and have more, but actually if we plugged in one more ship, the entire street lighting will you'll just take out the city, which is a broader issue around the national grid and actually how it needs to be reformed. We've also got places like the National Oceanography Centre based in Southampton, which I know are linked with the University of Southampton, which are globally recognised for what they're doing. They're actually partly responsible for mapping out the entire ocean surface and working with governments around the world, which is an incredible asset in the city, and innovating in spaces around marine and how we tackle the climate crisis. So like I mentioned, I do think we're ideally placed in this city, but also regionally, to be leaders in kind of the fight against the climate crisis and use it to our advantage and bringing that inward investment. Fundamentally, globally, people are looking at where they set up shop and where they invest to get this going. We've got all the ingredients, so they actually come to our region, which is why the emergence of things like the Solent cluster become increasingly important. And for me, and I know there's other areas as well, but for me, to achieve a sustainable future broadly goes into 3 areas. So energy, how we generate it, consume it, preserve it; travel, how you choose to get around; and biodiversity, which I know is kind of a big theme of today. So how we maximise our blue and green assets to be part of the solution. So in Southampton, as I mentioned, we do have energy issues. We're not the only urban area that will have energy issues. We don't want our entire electricity to go down because Carnival want to plug in another ship and be more greener. So we do need fundamental change to the national grid. We're working on a local area energy plan at the moment and working really closely within the Solent cluster, and that's a regional partnership working. I think homes often get forgotten, and they're such an important part of a more sustainable future, and we're just so behind at the moment. I think there's a statistic out there where we actually have to retrofit over 4,000 homes a day between now and 2050 if we're ever going to get close to making our housing stock across the country energy efficient, which we're clearly woefully behind, which is why colleges and building up that skill set is so vitally important. We've got a big programme and are investing millions into making our local homes more energy efficient, and we're accelerating that as well. We're also offering business support with grants to ensure that our businesses are becoming more sustainable as well. When it comes to travel, as a politician, that's probably the most controversial, but it is inevitable. I mean, essentially, if we want to be in a net zero society, people have to change how they're getting around. And it's about how you take people on that journey with you. As a council, we're committed to making alternative travel options cheaper, easier, more accessible. We have some of the cheapest bus travel in the region in Southampton, and we've introduced extra services, for example, so local communities can use them. We're also looking at areas such as metro rail or water taxis and potentially how that can look within Southampton and the wider region. Finally, biodiversity. I think lockdown probably showed all of us how important our green spaces are. We're committed to becoming a national, having national city park status, so we can be part of that international family that see this as vitally important, but also regionally. I mean, we've got the New Forest and others. We've got amazing waters that we can all maximise and actually find natural solutions to some of the problems that we're facing. We've got several green flag status, so nationally recognised parks. For quite an urban city, we are very blue and green. In fact, we've got over 100 parks in Southampton, and Southampton Common is bigger than Hyde Park in London, and is great for our biodiversity as well. But we'll be working closer with partners to ensure that not only Southampton maximises on its biodiversity and green spaces, but how do we work more closely with the region to achieve that. Finally, I just wanted to end with this. Personally, I think, and I would say this as a politician, but this is meaningless unless it's meaningful to local people. So it's so vitally important that we do take local people with us rather than just preaching to them and helping them feel as though they're part of the solution. So we set up a citizens' assembly working really closely with the University of Southampton, who have been incredible. They've got professionals and experts that have done this around the world, around Europe, and it's been really successful. So locally, we're going to be doing a roadshow. I believe the first one's this Saturday. I'm getting nods. This Saturday in Woolstead. So we can get local communities having input on what a sustainable future in the city looks like for them. And we're going to be rolling that out throughout the summer before actually having the Citizens' Assembly, and actually bringing people from different backgrounds but different opinions and different approaches to this, so collectively we can come together. So politically as well, rather than it constantly being a political kind of football, we can say we've got a clear mandate from our local communities with what and how they want to achieve a net zero future. So whatever motivates you, we are committed to taking people with us. I know kind of reaching a green future is a lot broader. It includes what you eat, how you dress. I'm very proud that the dress I'm wearing cost me £3 and is secondhand, and I got it from a vintage fair from Southampton. Probably got student rates, but if no one realised, I'm not complaining. Yes, I don't think it's achievable though without working together. So thank you for inviting me today and say my piece. Really looking forward to taking questions.
Thank you very much. I suspect that engagement piece is going to come up again and again. That's a really important bit if we're going to achieve things. Now, just to show our balance, our final speaker is from Portsmouth and also lives on the Isle of Wight, so our local Renaissance man, I think. Dr. David Hutchinson is a lecturer at Portsmouth University in environmental innovation. Did I get that right, David?
Yeah, that'll do.
Over to you.
Hi there, good morning. I'll try and keep it brief. So, what does Greenprint mean to me? Why am I here? This sounds quite existential. I'm just starting to think, how do I keep that brief? For me, Alison said a lot of it at the outset. And actually what today is about is further road testing this concept of a framework that goes well beyond economic development, that thinks about the strengths and values of the region and how do we pull all that together. I went off to university. I left school at 18. I went straight to university and I've never left. It wasn't the same university, but I've never left the university sector. So I've been in education, one could argue, for my entire life. I'm 46 in August. I was born in 1977. One of the earliest things I remember was the Ethiopia famine in the early 80s, and I remember being very bothered by that at the age of 6, I suppose. And I mean, although there's one now that puts that into a cocked hat, but we don't hear about it. And then I started getting into, environmental issues. And I remember as a kid, I wanted to be maybe a journalist, I think at one point, a detective and a vet. And I settled on doing ecology. And I went and read ecology at the University of East Anglia, and I stayed there for nearly 10 years, moved through different departments, finished with a PhD. And so my entire almost life, but certainly working life, this whole thing of climate change and the human impacts of it and the mess that we're making of the planet has bothered me and driven what I've done. And I absolutely can buy into this concept that many, certainly young people, are claiming to be suffering from climate anxiety now. I have no issue in accepting that, because it's really hard. In the early days, when we were surrounded by people that were really trying to question whether climate change existed, and when I went to COP26, it was really nice to see. COP26 was the one at Glasgow. It was really nice to see that there weren't loads and loads of people anymore outside, telling us that we were all lying. So that was positive. But actually, it's now about action. And you just get fed up with the fact that you talk and talk and talk and nothing continues to happen. At COP26, there was this flurry of activity and there was loads of stuff going on, and government told us to crack on, and then it's all gone quiet. The current Prime Minister doesn't seem to care that much. For all his faults, the previous one but one seemed to at least, or at least his partner, cared more about the environment. Alok Sharma, who I've got a lot of time for, having seen him at COP26, has come out amongst many MPs now and said that we're not going far enough, we're not going fast enough, we're falling behind. There was a point where the UK was doing quite well, but now it's behind. And actually, let's face it, we're waiting for a general election, then there might be a new government, but we're going to be treading water from Westminster's point of view. So I don't know why this has got political. It wasn't supposed to. Anyway, you can see how much it matters to me. So actually, there is a genuine opportunity as a region, and it's not about Portsmouth versus Southampton. It's not about, oh, look at them over on the Isle of Wight, aren't they back in the 1960s and all cute, and what are they doing over there? It's actually, we have the world-class environments, the world-class people, and that's what it's all about. It's about the people coming together. So, we've had a go at talking to a load of people, creating a framework, but from this point, and thank you for being here and online, it's, how can we mobilise ourselves to actually do something, irrespective of what's going on globally? How can we as the Solent become activated so that when people around the world talk about the great places in the world, the Solent is one of those, up there with Copenhagen or Costa Rica are pretty amazing at the moment. We are mentioned in that same breath. And become a shining beacon for the UK as well, because we have that opportunity here, I think. So that's kind of what drives me. And like I say, I've been in education all my life, so skills is a really essential part of that, and how we do skills. And it's about, so I learnt, as an ecologist, I see things as ecosystems, which we use too much now as a word, but as ecosystems, and everything is kind of related to everything else. So I learned that means I'm a systems thinker, and then I learned that there aren't that many systems thinkers about, and actually it's not that common because of the way that we do skills and the way we do education and the way that we organise ourselves and this whole silo mentality. But actually we need to get to that. We need to get to that sort of T-shaped individual that has a specialism or two, but actually has a broad understanding of a range of things and is able to talk and communicate and appreciate stuff outside of their individual specialism. And as universities, we need to work together. We are still seen on occasion as ivory towers, as inaccessible. That is not acceptable. Neither is the fact that, neither can universities solve this on our own, although some academics would think that was the case. But we absolutely should be part of a partnership and a collaboration like Greenprint to unlock and provide knowledge, expertise, facilities, but also to learn and to listen and to work together for the good of the people and the environment, certainly in our local area, but that would spill over nationally and internationally. Yeah, there you go.
David, thank you very much for that further injection of passion. And David's been on the steering group since the beginning and is pretty passionate on the steering group as well, so there was no act being put on there. One thing to keep in mind, I think, is a point that David and others have made about the focus on action and the importance of not just a framework for talking about the environment, but a framework for doing things to deal with this concept of green recovery and the different themes that Alison talked about earlier on. And as a phrase David used about today, the idea of road testing the concept. This is probably one of the widest conversations about the Greenprint that's happened, with the widest audience of different people from different organisations. So we're really interested to hear what you think of it, get any questions, and get your views on how you can participate and how you can take part. So over to you in the room and online as well. Helen has a roving mic, and we will pop across occasionally to our PhD students on the table on my left who are picking up the online questions, so you won't get forgotten. So there's a hand raised already.
We have a question already here. If I could just ask when you just hold on to the microphone gets you so that online can hear you as well. Thank you.
And please
Thank
say
you.
who you
I'll
are, Louise.
stand up because I'm short. So hello, I'm Louise from Artswork. We're a charity that empowers children and young people through creativity. And I just wanted to say it's lovely to have been invited. Thank you, Simon. Because I think one of the extended collaborations that could really help around this is to get more of our creative and cultural organisations involved, because they're all doing things and they want to help. But actually, there is a huge opportunity, I think, for the creative and cultural organisations of the Solent to really bring this to life, to do that engagement piece, to do things that are visible and imaginative and can connect with people, and also the organisations that work with young people, because it is their biggest passion. It's the thing that they want to see change most. So just to say thank you, and I will take that as a personal mission to go and extend the conversation out to our partners in cultural organisations who I think could really help as part of a bigger collaborative group.
Thank you, Louise. And at risk of making you run around a bit, Helen, should we take a couple more questions and then get the panel to respond to them collectively?
I hope every question is at the opposite end of the room. Get my steps up.
Hi, Paul Brockman from Woodlander Coppice. I'm a social forestry specialist. Now, people are going to say, what the hell is a social forestry specialist? Well, I manage woodlands for social outcomes. So it's working with those young people who are at risk of exclusion and so on, but also working with social prescribing groups as well. I have a series of woodlands all around the New Forest, which landowners have been very good to turn them over to teaching woodlands. So it's teaching these young people about how we manage woodlands, embracing what King Charles embraces is our heritage skills that are fast disappearing on how we manage our woodlands. And people go on about, oh, we plant this many trees, we plant that many trees. How are they being looked after? How do we bring on the next generation? Do we take a leap of faith and actually change the curriculum to meet those needs? Because schools are so much under pressure from the government in ticking boxes, stats, exam results, league tables and all the rest of it. But they've forgotten about the young people. Each of those are individuals. They're not just a tick box. They're not just a number on the register, but I work with a lot of young people who struggle in formal education, who have got really good, who are really passionate about the environment and so on, but need the opportunity to be able to do that.
So it's a question about how are we
So
being
it's how do you
radical
bridge
enough
the
in
gap?
engaging and educating.
Yeah. And do you take a leap of faith and being able to change the curriculum?
Yeah. Okay, and then one more, and we'll go to online after we've had a crack at these. Is anybody in the room immediately raising a hand? No, one more over there. There's something about the left side of the room, obviously.
Liz Harris, University of Southampton Students' Union. Does the panel see then Greenprint, how do they see Greenprint fitting within other strategies that are ongoing? Say the Southampton Green City Charter or the Climate Commission. From our discussions on the table, there is so much happening. Is it that this is going to bring everything together and give us the agency and the backing to say, no, well, through Greenprint, we've got multi-agency support now, we are going to do these things. This is what's going to get us there. How is this going to bring us together and get us moving further and faster?
So I'm going to take chair's privilege and sort of link those as all being about engagement, I think, in some way, and bringing people in. So specific about engaging the cultural, creative and cultural sector who are perhaps less inclined to be involved with some of these projects. I may be wrong there, but maybe one of the groups who aren't part of our normal conversations on the environment. Engaging young people, are we being radical enough in educating and engaging? and that how we reach across different sectors as well. And because she's looking at me, I'm going to start with Satvir to give me some thoughts on that.
Great questions. So arts, love the arts. I actually sit on Arts Council England, so I'm really pleased you mentioned this. And actually Arts Council England are taking their responsibility to be part of the solution towards a sustainable world really, really seriously, just to reassure everybody. I think the arts can play a really important part. As you know, arts work are amazing, but not only to raise awareness in this area, which is very important, because it's all about that engagement. Different people absorb and become aware of something in different ways. I mean, not everyone's going to go to university for their entire life and learn about it, or you're going to go to the library and read a book about it. But there are creative ways to raise awareness about the importance of it. I also think there's very creative ways to get alternatives within our local community. So in order to change, you fundamentally need to change the built environment. Now, the way to help take communities with you to help change the way our built environment is by having creative things happen in those built environments. And actually that's where the arts world really come in and bring places to life. So I think they've got a really important part to play, and they should be more involved in these conversations. On the social impact of our greening, I think that's really important. I know that, and I kind of definitely felt it during the pandemic. Not only did I personally benefit from our green spaces, but I noticed how many of our young people and families were disadvantaged by not having a garden or living in a high-rise flat. And actually, I think what you're doing is so important, it needs to be rolled out. I'm very much in favour of green spaces being equally seen as important heritage sites alongside our old medieval walls and underground vaults, because they're equally important. In fact, Southampton has, so I don't know whether many people know Lord's Wood in Shirley and Coxford. I think that's one of the only places that was built around mature trees. So rather than just tearing it down, they actually, it's impossible to canvass, just in case anybody was tempted, please canvass with us. But yes, it's very difficult to canvass, but it's the most incredible place, and how it can be done if you're really committed to doing that and protecting our green spaces.
Just before you move on, there was a very specific point the gentleman made about sort of we need to perhaps be a bit more radical, a bit braver in how we teach kids about these issues, and as leader of what you used to call the local education authority, you may have views on that as well.
Yeah, so on that, and that was actually going to be my next point. I think that at the moment, government has very much left it to schools about how much they engage in this space or not. And I think by default, schools are doing a lot in this space because young people are very, very interested. But actually, I do agree that perhaps the curriculum does need to evolve and ensure that parts of our environment are included, because fundamentally they're our future and they're going to be part of our solution. And very quickly, from the university's perspective and Greenprint strategies, I suppose that's that's a question for Greenprint to respond to. But from my perspective, I think it's really important that whatever strategies you have, and rather than having a whole new strategy, because I have strategies coming out of my ears, actually ensuring that the plans and strategies you have, whatever they're about, that actually they have a green angle to it and they're responding to the green agenda, whether it's about schools or education or the arts or children or adult social care or you name it, that it's linking up to our green agenda. And I think that's a more powerful way of doing it, rather than creating a whole new strategy.
Thank you. David, the bringing other people in, that's been part of our regular conversations, hasn't it, about the partnership? What's your views on the points made there?
Yeah, so this isn't a strategy, it's a framework. We chose that word intentionally, and it's not supposed to fit in with stuff or replace stuff or provide an alternative to stuff. It's to hang stuff off, and actually already, just listening to people and conversations, things are coming to the surface that you didn't necessarily know existed or was going on. The trick and the thing that's causing us a lot of, or is taking up a lot of thought, is how do you create a mechanism to measure the progress of stuff that's going on within a framework. There is some work that's being done here at the University of Southampton that perhaps has promise, which is a sort of simple dashboard that has that ability to look across silos and sort of come up with a series of metrics. So that could be an answer. But that's I think very much what it is. So it's about bringing people together, giving them a focus, but not taking over or telling people which direction to go in, and actually just creating something that enables us to feel part of something and move things forward at pace. In terms of skills development and education, I think yes, we probably do need to change the curricula. Whether we're going to do it quickly or whether that's in our gift, possibly not. The thing that is in our gift, though, is that Hampshire and Isle of Wight are, as you know, actually terrifically well wooded. I mean, we've got a lot of woods for the south. So actually what we can do, and as part of the framework and the systems approach, is, and I know Fawley Waterside are thinking about this as a development, but why are we not building timber-framed houses using timber from the woods in Hampshire and creating the supply chain that pulls the skills development and gives those opportunities to people through? So it's joining dots and looking at the whole supply chain, and there are people that want to do that, but again, you know, how do you get enough momentum to see that happening? And in terms of the arts, I just agree that I'll try not to get political again, but when I was at primary school and learning stuff and starting to have a really appreciation, in fact, I think for me, primary school was the place where I developed a lot of my interest and passion, and my head teacher at the time started a young ornithologist club, and we used to go on walks at lunchtime, and we used to trap mammals, and I came from a rural community in a place called Oakham. That same time, some chap appeared at our school with an oboe and said, who would like to have a go at this? And I did. And on Saturday, I'm principal oboe of the Isle of Wight Symphony Orchestra, and there's about 50 tickets left if anyone wants to come. But I'm principal oboe of the Isle of Wight Symphony Orchestra still. But I got the opportunity. It didn't cost my parents anything. None of that exists anymore. But the integration of arts with science, and I ended up doing a science degree, but is essential. It's all part of the system.
So we'll look for a Greenprint discount on the concert on Saturday, will we?
No discount.
No. Anushka, the engaging young people, the curriculum.
Should
Should we be doing more?
100%. I wanted to touch down on Paul's question. I think, you know, the point you raise around the need for alternative curriculum is extremely valid. We know that the number of young people not in education, employment and training is on the rise post-COVID as well. And we know from experience that not all young people will engage well with the mainstream education system. I think there is a mechanism in place whereby we can explore alternative curriculum offers, which is fantastic. There are flexibilities there. Do I think enough organisations take up that opportunity to do so? Probably not, and for various different reasons. But I certainly think it's possible. I certainly think that training providers are empowered to put on alternative curriculum in partnerships with organisations such as yourselves, and very, very keen to explore it. Where we have run alternative curriculum, we've seen some incredible success. At Fareham, we run a military mentors partnership for those that are really hard to engage. We also have different kind of bespoke programmes for engaging the unemployed back into work as well, which don't involve sitting in that classroom environment, and are mostly developing those practical skills to get them engaged and out into the world of work quite quickly. So I think your point is valid. I do think there's a flexibility there for the training providers to do something different. I wonder whether it's that straightforward when you start to look at secondary education and primary education. I think that might be where some of the biggest challenges are in terms of flexible provision there. I think in terms of curriculum, there's a lot going on already across the education sector. So I know from my experience with the 16 to 19 programmes, there's an expectation now, which is certainly governed by Ofsted, that they will look to see how we're embedding sustainability into our curriculum, and we do that very well. And that's right from the planning stages all the way through. Certainly, and at the AOC conference this year, there was a lot of discussion around green skills and how the awarding bodies are starting to respond to that. I know IFATE are doing a review of our technical specifications from level 2 up to level 3. And there's plans in place to explore green skills modules relative to those sectors within qualifications moving forwards. I don't think that will happen very quickly, but it's something that's certainly on the horizon there as well.
But it does sound as though there's an opportunity. Maybe the first thing on the agenda for the South Hampshire College Group is to start thinking about what we can do locally on that education, not constrained by government guidance on curriculum.
Yeah, I'm really keen that we engage with local organisations such as yourself to come up with some ideas around alternative provisions.
That sounds like a see me afterwards then, doesn't it? So.
Definitely. I'd love to catch up, yeah. And it's certainly something that the local councils are passionate about through the consultation feedback that we had, is making sure that our needs aren't forgotten in this process and that we've got a robust offer there.
Just while David makes a point, Helen, you want to head over to our online questions, see what we've got. David?
The other thing is, picking up again on something Alison said at the outset, is making more of our natural environment. So let's get first mover advantage on some of this stuff and show, work out what we can do within the confines of what's possible with policy frameworks, etc. But actually we have an immensely, 2 national parks and a biosphere reserve. Why are people not flocking here to do, relevant studies? We've got the sailing, there's stuff that we are world class at, and let's make much more of that as a community to build and produce some of these opportunities around skills.
David, thanks. An online question, please, fire away.
We have a question from Michael Shaw. What are the top 3 actions needed to achieve net zero with nature?
There's a challenge for our panel. I think I'll start with David on the basis he's been engaged for the longest and has probably got some very clear ideas, but I'll run down the line. Top 3 actions. Net zero with nature.
I'm not even going to bother. I could make 3 things up, but actually that's not what this is about. So actually, it's about the workshops and it's about the people in the room. And I'm sorry that the gentleman online won't get to participate, but please feed in what you think are the top 3, because actually this is now about where do we go together. So that's where we'll get our top 3 from, I think.
It's perhaps just worth mentioning the Portsmouth.
I'm not trying to dodge the question.
Yeah, it's no. You're. I think that's a good answer.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
It's worth remembering that the Portsmouth pilot was designed to find Portsmouth's answers for these questions, and the City Council, with their partners, came up with answers that worked for Portsmouth as to what they thought were most important. It might be different for Southampton, it might be different again for Associated British Ports if they engage with this, or Solent Lep who are engaging with this, or whoever it might be. So there is a bit about sort of homegrown, but perhaps quite locally grown, I would suggest. But is there a Southampton top 3 in mind you have? Is that there?
Oh. Well, at the top of my head, so I already gave kind of 3 areas that I think were fundamental to having a more sustainable future, but particularly when it comes to our natural environment, I would say, first and foremost, protect it at any costs. I know there's things in place to protect it, but I think we can go further, because for too long we're losing some really great spaces, and create more ones, new ones. There's no reason why, if you're regenerating and you're having big, whether it's local, national, kind of regional plans, that you can't create more environmentally friendly spaces with more green spaces. So that's my first one. My second
just on that first one,
yeah.
do the councils have the tools through the planning system to do that protection, do you think?
Well, at the moment we're going for our local plan, and that's definitely part of it, absolutely. I think, as I mentioned earlier, it's about whatever we do and whatever strategy or plan we have, that there's a golden thread of sustainability throughout. The second one, I think, is engagement. As I already mentioned, I think all of this is meaningless unless it's meaningful to local people and you take them with you. So engagement, I think, is key. And then my third one is looking at your natural environment and seeing how they can help you with some of the energy issues we're facing. I'm personally, as we're getting marginally political, I'm praying for a change of government, preferably a brighter colour, that's going to have a green prosperity. No, I'm very red. The ones that can actually win power, but use our waters, our sun, our wind, and use our climate and our environment to produce the energy that currently we're lacking. And that should hopefully develop the skills that we need as well.
Let's hurry quickly away from the political sector to the apolitical college. You're talking about your own work on sustainability, and you're leading that. Thoughts developing there, and what might be your practical response to net zero with nature?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, I've touched down a lot on the education piece and making sure that we continue to embed sustainability into the minds of our young people so that they come out of education equipped with the future skills that we need to drive that net zero initiative. I think that's hugely important. And we've got some amazing schemes underway already. So we offer plumbing apprenticeships now, but we don't offer at Fairham. We don't offer the gas route. There's a lot of other providers that do that well, and we've chosen the renewable energy route for that. We probably chose that a little bit too soon because it's quiet on that course, but I know the numbers are going to come, and we're going to stick with it because I know it will happen. And that's a commitment from us. We also run a T-level now in built services, which embeds crucial skills in installing electric vehicle charging points and solar panels. So again, a fantastic initiative. And this year, we're looking to enter into partnership with the Retrofit Academy, which is an initiative facilitated through Hampshire County Council. And that will enable us to deliver retrofit qualifications at level 2 and 3 initially, but in the second year expanding to 4 and 5. The beauty of that programme is that Retrofit Academy have been quite clever in providing a support package that provides training providers with the capacity to actually deliver these courses. As I mentioned earlier, our challenge is skill set to deliver these courses. Retrofit have provided a package that overcomes that problem by providing our trainer packages to our staff members, providing curriculum support, providing resources for us to utilise. Any barrier that's causing any barrier that's there for training providers is overcome through packages such as this. So I want to, give a huge shout out to initiatives such as Retrofit Academy for that very reason. That's enabling us to respond. So that's, our top one has to be education. And as I mentioned earlier, exploring alternative curriculums, I think, must stay on that agenda as well. Outreach to the community is incredibly important there. And as I mentioned, the outreach work we've done with the tech truck and extending those initiatives, I think, is hugely important, engaging young people from a young age with careers, in net zero. And if it isn't that career choice for them, at least, they're walking away feeling inspired and committed to wanting to do better for the environment as well. And for me, I think, we spoke about top 3. I'm not going to get too political because my new job description says I must display political acumen. So I'm going to remain on the fence in terms of that. But what I would say is, we do a lot of work out in the community. I would say where I live, it's not particularly, rich area in terms of, financials, and I think there are some key barriers in terms of the community to be able to access and start their own net zero journey. I think a lot of the initiatives that are in place for installation of PV and heat pumps is based on minimum salary, and we all know that that's about £18,500 a year or benefits. We've got a lot of single people, working at the college that are earning £27,000. These people do not have expendable income. They're struggling to pay the food bills. So what I would say there is we need more commitment from the government, whichever party that may be in the future, to make net zero accessible for people. I think that really does need to be looked at. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say on the matter.
I don't know if in the words of these things we've got time for one more quick question, or you need me to wrap up, Helen?
I'm afraid I'm going to need you to wrap up if that's okay, or I can come and
Okay.
wrap up if you're happy to carry on.
Well, I'll say thank you to all of our panel for their contributions, mostly apolitical, and very well done for that. I think one thing I'd say, and our online question drew out a key point in a way, the point about actions, but we also talk about net zero with nature, and people time again remembered that nature is part of this and part of the solution. And I think the challenge is to think how we bring our, as Alison called it, quite rightly, world-class environment into the solutions to problems where it may not immediately be apparent that that's part of the solution. For us, it has to be, and indeed it's an opportunity. So thanks to our panel, and thanks to our questions as well. Perhaps whilst Helen's just sorting out lunch arrangements, quick round of applause for our panel, I think.
Thank you so much. That's been absolutely very interesting. So much food for thought. Thank you to all our speakers today and to our panel. Thank you for those of you who asked questions. Also, a quick thank you to the University of Southampton for hosting us today, to the events team, to the media team. Thank you for all of you here and for watching online. We look forward to hearing from you. You'll get an email after we finish this event, so you can write in with any feedback, any questions. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great rest of your Friday and weekend ahead, and we wish you very well. Goodbye.